Radical Radio Collective.
Good afternoon, listeners. You're tuned into 4ZZZ 102.1 FM. This is Ecoradio, Australia's longest-running peace and environment radio show, probably. We're taking over your middle of the day, middle of the week, start of the month airwaves still.
Close enough.
Yeah. My name is Dave. My pronouns are he, him.
I'm Zack. My pronouns are he, they.
And I want to start off by acknowledging and paying my respects to the custodians on the country in which we broadcast. We're located in the city Mungingin on Turrbal, Yagara and Yucaba land. I also want to acknowledge and pay my respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are listening in today. Our radio waves reach Cubby Cubby and Unibara country in the north, Waka Waka country in the west. In the east, we pay our respects to the Coorparoo people, and down south, we reach the Commonwealth, Ngarragwal, Munjali, Wandjarabara, and Yugambeh countries. There is no Crown land. Thank you to No Idea for all the fantastic ideas. I also love that you played a little country song in there. It was fantastic. Well, today we are talking to Catherine Lawrence and Cameron Green from the Action for Animals Forum. They are running a panel discussion this Saturday in Spring Hill where they'll be talking about the rights of animals in our society. We're also going to be talking to Ecoradio Legend Linda about a get-together at the Victoria Park next weekend to reclaim the area from developers. But before we move forward, Landcare Australia is doing a survey for Landcare volunteers to find out more about us and why we decide to spend our time digging in the dirt. So go to our show page and you'll find a link to the survey, or look up Landcare Australia survey and give them a piece of your mind. We're going to get cracking on this show because we're jam-packed today. We're full of jam and packed in. And we're going to go with a vegan anthem by Bob Vylan before we talk to Kat and Cameron. This is Health is Wealth. You're listening to 4ZZZ Eco Radio.
Brisbane music lovers, meet your new masters. Doug! Combining Appalachian twang and Irish soul, complete with clawhammer banjo and a whole lot of heart. Experience the first adventure of Doug, the dynamic Irish-American duo set to set the world free. Lefty's Music Hall, October 14th. Tickets on sale now at lovepolice.com.au. Proud sponsor of 4ZZZ.
And we thank them for it. You're listening to 4ZZZ. This is Eco Radio. My name's Dave.
My name's Zack. And
we're both here with Kat and Cameron from Action for Animals. Kat and Cameron, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So I guess the first question is, what is Action for Animals?
Yeah, well, the forum itself is an opportunity for people around the southeast Queensland area to come together and just talk about animals for the day. Mm-hmm. Animal rights, the environmental impacts of animal agriculture, and a whole bunch of things. Even we've got a panel just on finding community, which is important in a subculture. Yeah.
So the forum is happening this Saturday. How did it begin?
It began many years ago in Brisbane. We had the great Brisbane Social Forum, which was modelled on the World Social Forum, and I was I attended that a couple of times, and then I did the website for them, got a little bit involved with the organisation, and I actually left Brisbane to live in London and came back, and that was gone, and I was quite disappointed because I really liked it. So I wanted to do something like that, but I wanted it to have, as an animal activist myself, I wanted it to have more of an animal rights focus. So that was the initial idea, and I also felt it could be done fairly easily with a minimum of stress. We didn't have to. There's a national animal rights forum that's really, costs a lot of money to go to, highly organised. I thought we could do something a little bit more community based, mm-hmm. and so that's the germ of the idea. Yeah, right.
And so what is the aim of the forum happening this Saturday?
Yeah, well, I can jump in. So it's actually our third time, mm-hmm. And it's really around, I'd say, building solidarity among a broad coalition of allies who include non-human animals in their circle of compassion. So we want it to be about sharing ideas, capacity building, community building, and, you know, ultimately to amplify our power together to push back against probably the most neglected and enormous social justice issue of our times, which is animal exploitation, you know, which involves cruelty at a staggering scale, and is often left out of the conversation. So
yeah, all right. Well, can you tell us about some of that cruelty, some of these like examples that really grind your gears or really get you amped to fight back?
Well, I suppose the largest industry that is using animals is the animal agriculture for food. And within that, I think we're killing 92 billion is the latest stat from the UN, land animals alone every year. And when you can modify a sentient being to for profit, you're going to cut corners and you're going to do things that are not in that being's interest, almost by definition. So when you look at the lives that they live and the ways that they die, it really is quite hard to even look at. And we know that most people agree with us. You know, that there was a study a few years ago that found something like 93% or more Australians want reform, because when they actually, and the more you know, the more reform you want. So we're talking about things like procedures done on animals without anaesthetic, you know, things like dehorning, debeaking, tail docking, pulling out of teeth, and then practices like what is known as blunt force trauma to kill off, like runts of the litter and that kind of thing. And that literally is picking up piglets by the back legs and slamming them against walls. This is all legal, and most people, when they hear about it, they're quite shocked. It's just that we're not meant to know, and we're told a lot of myths. And so, yeah, we just think that this movement needs our voices, our collective power, and a lot of, the shared compassion that actually we think everybody has. And once you tie those threads together with the impacts on the environment as well, and start to understand that we are pushing the planet beyond the brink, and this is impacting this most beautiful constellation of life that we have, you know, on this living planet, the only one we know exists in the universe, then it all comes together pretty beautifully as a cause, you know, that can actually be quite empowering once you join together.
Yeah, well, can you talk to us about how cruelty to animals affects the environment?
Yeah. Do you want to jump in? Or
Yeah, I mean, I guess the first thing that we try to get across to people is the incredible scale of this industry. People have this image in their head, maybe from their children's books, of, you know, the farmer with one pig and a cow with a hat on, whose name he knows. That's a complete illusion. And actually, this is a global spanning industry overseen by massive conglomerates and corporations and governments. It's, you know, in some places a murderous industry, not just to animals but to Indigenous people, because it's of incredible use of land. And it's 54% of the Australian continent is beef pasture.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, when we look at deforestation in Queensland, which is a global hotspot, you go onto the WWF webpage and it lists all these sort of developing nations, and then suddenly you see East Australia there, and that's predominantly Queensland. And studies of causes of deforestation in Queensland, our home state, show that 80 to 90% of it is for animal pasture, and about 2/3 of that is beef. And also a lot of what remains, our world in data says about 2/3 of grain grown in Australia goes to animal feed as well. So when we look at something like, you know, losing 50% of koalas in the last couple of decades due to deforestation, animal agriculture is culprit number one. And we don't feel it's talked about enough, because for some reason people want to sort of put it out of sight and out of mind.
Yeah, that's right. So what is happening at the forum? Who is going to be available to speak?
Yeah, well, we're really lucky. We've got such an amazing array of animal advocates and organisations that are based locally, or they might be based nationally, but they have reps here. So it's right here on our doorstep, and we just want to give an opportunity for them to share the amazing work they're doing, invite people to get involved, give takeaway actions. So at the same time, you know, it's very, as I think Cameron was indicating, like we want it to be very inclusive and collaborative too. So it's not only about platforming. It's not like a traditional conference where there's kind of people up on stage and then the punters. It's not really like that. Like we want everyone to come and share what they're doing and exchange ideas. We've all got things to learn.
More like a conversation than a talk.
But that said, we do have these amazing people, who dedicate maybe full time to it, to this movement. So we've got, for example, Animal Kind, formerly known as Animal Liberation Queensland. So they're based right here. We've got Gaia Serenity Animal Sanctuary, who's they're basically a new farmed animal sanctuary based down in Ormo. They're going to talk about their founding story. We've got the Captain Paul Watson Foundation, reps from we've got Queensland chapter leaders who have a wealth of experience doing frontline, activism around the world and locally, outreach here and back home. We've got the Australian Alliance for Animals. We've got somebody from there who is going to be talking to us about how we can use our voice to influence political change. We've got a whole bunch of, I'll just go through, I guess, the other main orgs, like national orgs. We've got Animal Free Science Advocacy. So it's not only about food animals. There are animals who are unfortunately subjected to just horrifying suffering in labs, and this is continuing, and it's not even beneficial to humans. So we're actually fortunate to have the CEO of Animal Free Science Advocacy, who's locally based and going to come and talk to us in person. We've got an academic who works in the field of kind of behavior change and how to encourage dietary shifts through just making it the easy, accessible option, and those kinds of nudge techniques that can be used. So we're really looking forward to that. And we also have an environmental voice. So Gerard Wedderburn Bishop, who is, some people might have heard of the film Eating Our Way to Extinction. He was a scientific advisor on that film. It's an absolutely brilliant documentary. And he's recently published some papers showing that arguing basically when we use up-to-date accounting methods that animal agriculture is the top climate culprit, which above fossil fuels potentially, and he'll explain that, and his reasoning is based on current science. It's pretty persuasive. I mean, these debates are always going on. It depends how you slice and dice it, and kind of what global warming potentials you attribute to different gases and things like that. But I think his main focus is on deforestation, because he actually used to work for the Queensland government monitoring deforestation, and it kind of made him realise how vast this scale is. And I think we've recently heard that it's something like 6 Brisbane CBDs a day still being deforested.
Wow.
And primarily, like 93%, I think, based on the latest SLAT's data, is for grazing industries, of which, as Cameron said, the majority is beef, but there's also sheep and other grazed animals. So we've got Jared as well. Sorry, and then just the last lot is kind of a collection, like a panel of local community leaders who do kind of different social things and local outreach. So there'll be like a sort of panel, and that's the sort of finding community aspect that Cameron mentioned.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. Well, intellectual fun.
Yeah.
And that's happening this Saturday, the 12th, at Spring Hill Hall. We're going to come back and talk to you a bit more about it, but we're just going to go to a song for a bit of a break. You're listening to 4ZZZ. This is Eco Radio.
Charity fundraiser Brisbane Reckling Community Cup is back this July. Come see your favourite 4ZZZ announcers and their music industry comrades face off against Brisbane's finest and fittest local musicians in an Aussie Rules Community Cup match to remember, with live performances from Girl and Girl, Arugula and DVD on Sunday 27th of July at Everton Wolves JAFC Inaugura. Tickets on sale via Oztix. Reclink is a proud sponsor of 4ZZZ.
You just heard then from Archie Roach and Ruby Hunter with Augie March, that is Minister for Planets. And we are talking to Catherine Lawrence and Cameron Green from the Action for Animals Forum that's happening this Saturday at Spring Hill Hall. And we were just talking about what is happening at the forum. But what brought you guys to animal activism?
Yeah, it's an excellent point. I guess I'd always loved animals. I had a connection with pets, and I loved seeing animals. I loved the Attenborough documentaries like a lot of people. And as I got older, I sort of, got hit with the environmental message of the planet. And so I guess my first activism was probably environmental. And then I slowly started to sort of make the connections and so on. And I realised, I was one of those I love cats and dogs kind of people, and I didn't extrapolate it more widely. And I guess I started educating myself. And the first bit of activism I ever did, I think I just went and patted cats and dogs at a RSPCA, and then as I tried to find out how to do more, I realised the scope and the scale, and that actually diet was the real thing. Like that when we look at the planetary scale, the number of animals involved and so on, the number of animals each of our lives touches, it's really diet that is the driver of our treatment of animals.
And so that led you into doing what initially?
Yeah, I got involved with Animal Liberation Queensland, and that's I was vegetarian at that time, and then I started reading about, for instance, people would be surprised to know that about half of the chickens in the egg-laying industry are male, and they have no real use for them, so they need to get rid of them. If you go onto the RSPCA's page, the most humane method that they recommend is immaceration, which is feeding them live into a grinder.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's as opposed to just putting them in bags and suffocating them, or putting them in a bin and letting them die of thirst and hunger.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, in piles. It's the scale of the industry requires these sorts of things.
Yeah, like they can't do a humane euthanasia because there's just no profit for it.
Yeah, there's many more chickens in Australia than there are people. It's a huge scale industry. So having that involvement to Animal Liberation Queensland and reading, I just read more and more. I never intended, like, I'm now a vegan. I've been a vegan for 25 years, but I never intended to become a vegan. It was just like, oh, this is incredibly cruel. I'm going to boycott this product. And it got to a point where I was basically vegan anyway, because I just didn't think it was something I could be part of.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Catherine, how did you get involved?
Yeah, I mean, my story probably goes right back to being quite a young child. So went veg at the age of about 9 after a bit of a fight with my parents, but luckily, a couple of years worth of convincing them that I was serious. I was lucky to have a supportive mum. This was back in the UK where I'm originally from, and I knew 2 other vegetarians, so that was kind of my precedent. I would say, well, they're vegetarians, so I can be too. I guess it came from a sense of just awareness that you can't really eat an animal without killing and hurting them first, that pretty basic level. And then I remember being in my teens and sort of always being asked, I was kind of generally still the odd one out because this is a while ago, and I remember saying quite distinctly, the more I read, the more I learn about this industry, the more certain I am that I've made the right decision. And it's pretty much continued like that ever since. And similar to Cameron, I was always an environmentalist as well. I literally remember wandering around the school library, the primary school library, looking for books about deforestation and extinction because I was so upset about it. And this is like, just showing my age, this would have been the 80s. And I suppose I pursued that primarily initially as my sort of career focus, and then it was in about 2006 I think Livestock's Long Shadow came out, the FAO report showing that animal agriculture is what's driving the planetary crisis really, at every scale from local to global. It's a contributor to the major problems that we face. And I realized, well, I guess 2 things. One, if I focus on kind of promoting this shift that we need, then I will be helping both animals and the environment, and humans too, as obviously we are animals too, and this is our planet and we need a future and we want to thrive and be healthy. But also, even if we kind of lose the environmental fight, which at times it can feel like is going to happen, then at least I've prevented, for every animal who I've spared from coming into a life of just abject suffering, and a basically a torturous life and a horrifying death, then that's something worth doing. So,
yeah, you got to do what you can.
Yeah.
You were saying that you had a bit of pushback from your parents, obviously, as a 9-year-old.
Yeah.
But you guys would have like pushback all the time. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I've gone back and forth over the years. Like many vegans, when I started, I I was very passionate. I was like, oh, everyone needs to wake up, and I thought it was just a matter of people getting the information. And then you get to a point you go, oh, it's more than that. It's something very deep about people, and that maybe just giving them brutal facts isn't helping them, and it's not good for me either. So I try and remember that I ate meat for a long time, and I try and just have compassion for where people are, while also wanting to advocate for the animals at the same time. So it is a tension there. We see it as a social justice issue. On the other side, people just see it as a choice of what they eat. And so I realise that they're not in my head, and that I need to understand where they are in talking to them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So dealing with pushback.
Yeah.
I suppose one really helpful thing for me is just to remember that it's not about me. It's about the animals. I'm just channeling that the whole time. It's about the animals and the earth and, justice. And so that keeps me pretty strong against pushback. And then it also keeps me wanting to be strategic so that I can be as, effective as possible. So always learning, always trying to, geek out on kind of movement strategy, movement ecology. And that's one of the reasons we do the forum, is so that we're bringing together a range of approaches and, best practices, and, bringing in, there's an increasing amount of body of research about, behaviour change strategies and the environmental impacts, just all aspects of the movement. And we are against a sort of an extremely powerful kind of incumbent industry that thinks it has the right to exist and remain fairly obscure to the public. And so just remembering all of those things, and then community, that helps me keep going as well. All
right, well, we're going to go to a song soon, but what is one thing that you hope people take away from Action for Animal Forum or this talk more broadly?
Yeah, I've always been very fond of the statement, animals are here with us, not for us, and that from this talk. But I think the people who will be coming to the forum, I want them to find community, I want them to find their people, and as I was saying off air, I always loved the 4ZZZ slogan, educate, organise, and that's kind of exactly what we're doing. We're trying to do for the animals and just bring people together in that space, and hopefully good things will happen.
Yeah.
Kat, is there something that you want people to take away from this?
Yeah, I really like what Cameron said there. I think we're very much on the same page with bringing people together, helping that sense of real inclusive community and solidarity. That'd probably be the main thing for the forum. And for today, obviously, just hoping to reach out and bridge that, what can sometimes feel like a bit of a divide between the sort of animal rights and the environmental movements, because actually I think fundamentally they are deeply interconnected, and we stand to create a better future if we have a sort of multi-species justice approach.
Yeah, right. Do you think there is a divide between environmentalism and animal advocacy?
Well, probably not as much as maybe some media headlines might have us believe.
Right,
I think once you chat to people who do care, you realise you have all the same shared values. It's just that there's probably been a fair amount of pushback, especially in recent years, with narratives around, for example, what might be called regenerative agriculture, which becomes a sort of, we're all for regeneration, and but the truth is that we can't really replenish and regenerate the earth without a vast dietary shift as well. But there's kind of this false juxtaposition between, I guess, the idea of regenerative farming and dietary change, and actually they go hand in hand. So I think maybe the divide is not as big as it seems, but there can be a sense that vegans are the one minority that we're still allowed to vilify and kind of not not listen to, which is unfortunate.
There's like a dismissal that or maybe like a talking down to that happens with the media there. Well, thank you for coming in and agitating, educating and organising. We are very appreciative, and that's happening this weekend at the Spring Hill Hall. What time's it starting? 10:30?
Actually, doors open at 9:30, and we'll get started at 10.
Okay. Fantastic. Thanks very much, Kat and Cameron from Action for Animals.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
so much.
We're going to go to a song that you requested. You requested Soundgarden. I've picked this song, Face Pollution. You're listening to 4ZZZ. This is Eco Radio.
A weekly dose of science on 4ZZZ is now available as a podcast.
I learned that you can hear the difference between different water temperatures when they're poured. I'm going to pour one after the other into a different glass, and you have to tell me which one is which temperature. I've got a hot and a cold. Right, here's the first one. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm saying cold.
It sounds cool. Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Here's the second one. Well played.
Shut up. Search No Idea 4ZZZ on your favourite podcasting app. That's spelled KNOW, like no idea. It's a visual pun on an audio platform. I don't know why we did it.
Because it's funny. You're listening to 4ZZZ. This is Eco Radio. We just heard then from Soundgarden with Face Pollution. And that was our chat with Kat and Cameron from Action for Animals. They're holding a forum this weekend. And we've also got a fantastic little segment that's been happening recently where Wavy Beach, Ecoradio Legend, sends us a sermon. This one is about NAIDOC. It is NAIDOC week this week. And so let's go into that. This is Wavy Beach.
Today I'm sitting on the edge of the Carlo Blow near the township called Rainbow Beach, overlooking Kari on the boundary between the Bachelor peoples and the Kabi Kabi of this area. I have just walked to Puna, Lake Puna and back, and yes, feel so blessed to have been able to be in an area without weeds, although the weeds are with us and I am a weed, it can be said. NAIDOC week is upon us, offering strength, vision and legacy being the theme for the year. Strength of the young people, particularly required in the face of all that's stacked against folks. Taking vision from the communities all around us and that we are a part of, and you are a part of, and moving forward on the legacy of your forebears, of your ancestors. And like many things from Aboriginal people, this can be a message for us all. But it also is in the light of the message that has been passed down by the Victorian Truth and Justice Commission and their truth-telling that has gone on and been reported, identifying the full effects of ongoing colonialism, documenting that which was largely known by us all, the sad stories that have gone on of dispossession, poisonings, particularly in the old days, but have continued through to this day of taking of recent generations, and the nature of the system really that keeps those people in the background and not so able to really come into their power through the modern colonial picture that came upon them. Inevitably coming, the Europeans, bringing what they had, their anthropocentric superiority. So the inevitable result was genocide and then assimilation. So we must just hear this and move forward. As we heard the effort to offer the people via that referendum a seat at our table, but was soundly rejected. And that brought forward great truth-telling from elements of Australian society which needed to be outed as well and put out there to be faced and moved on forward with regardless, with strength, vision and legacy, which we recent weeds may try to learn also. Looking into the best of our old ways, where we have attempted to learn the best that we can from our own old ways, looking for community wherever we can, unfortunately, unconsciously, often bringing destructive old ways with us. But we thank the legacy of those who brought us the collective conscious of 4ZZZ, bringing us 50 years of great intention in this regard, and we bathe in the warm inner glow, knowing that this is our effort to reconnect with grand old ways. And in other ways, we can feel blessed that our organisation has brought forward voices of young people once again to the airwaves that we can enjoy. And I feel greatly blessed, as some may have also listened, as I grew up listening to 4ZZZ and hearing Murray Radio, and identifying only later in life the benefit of listening to song, the story through song, and the great lessons that can bring, including an appreciation for country music, just another form of folk music in a manner of a way. And of course, don't forget that 4ZZZ then birthed, and Murray Radio, through Murray Radio, the National Indigenous Radio Service. So an act of working together that has, with great vision, providing so much wonderful opportunity to hear Aboriginal voices. My favourite being, because you can listen, of course, through your the Community Australia app. No, what is it? Community Radio Australia. The app, the pink app, where I listen to 4ZZZ in regional areas, and you can listen to communities all across the country. My favourite being First Nations Radio, the radio station of Darwin, which just plays a lot of great Aboriginal music. Country too, but that's okay, of course. But yeah, search those out and have fun with that. The weeds are here to stay, but at least some of them can provide benefit in the best possible place, so that is all we can do, is strive to be our best in the best possible place, sharing the old ways that we have learned through the wonders of warm inner glow.
Attention local brands, bands and businesses. Are you sick of advertising on Facebook? Ever wish there was a better way to get the word out about your amazing products or services? Hit up 4ZZZ. We've got our finger on the pulse of the local community. We can get your message out there to the people who need to hear it with the help of our sponsorship campaigns. Want to know more? Hit up sponsorship at 4zzz.org.au for details. That's sponsorship at 4zzz.org.au. We help you spread the word and you help us keep community radio alive. It's a win-win.
Welcome back here on 4ZZZ. This is Ecoradio. We just heard then from Ethan Enoch with I Express. Great track there. Ethan is a Quandamooka man. And on the line now we have Linda, Ecoradio Legend. Linda, how are you?
Oh, good. Thanks for having me. How are you going?
Yeah, good. So we're putting on, or you've organised, but Eco Radio's in collaboration, putting on a get-together next weekend, Saturday the 19th at midday. Can you tell us what the event's going to be like?
Yeah, sure. So this event is going to be at Victoria Park. Burleigh is the original name for the area of Victoria Park, and the idea is to get people to go down and experience Victoria Park and how good it is, so they understand what can be lost if the Olympic Stadium is going to be built there. And the latest estimate is around 66% of the park is going to be taken up by the infrastructure of the stadium and the National Aquatic Centre and the surrounding infrastructure that it needs, roads and car parks and stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah. You might hear around me some construction happening, and this is what it's going to sound like at Victoria Park in, I'd say, within 2 years if they actually, get it together.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be the park that it is today. So I've just come inside so we don't have the noise distracting us.
Okay. So at the event there will be DJs, there's going to be art, nature journaling, the wildlife rescue skills sharing. There might be a cleanup and some bush care. What else is happening?
Yeah, so, the exciting news is that I bought a DJ controller. So DJ Jane Grigg, who's a Triple Z legend also, and Wave's going to be there too.
Yeah, nice.
And, so Wave's going to be early. We're starting at 12, so Wave can come because he's coming down from the mountain. And so
it's a long walk.
We'll be DJing as well, me and Jane Grigg, and watch this space for more news on DJs. So the nature journaling is something I've rebranded as wild art.
Oh, yeah.
And so the idea is to sit and draw what you see in nature or, I guess, wherever you are. But, so there's this place called Ibis Island at Victoria Park, Burleigh, and that's how I fell in love with this area. I had no idea it was there until I was releasing Ruby and Ibis that I rescued from 4ZZZ.
Yeah, that was the one, that was the Ibis that was found in the 4ZZZ car park.
Yeah. So we were looking for somewhere to release her, me and Nat from Pelican and Seabird Rescue, and they're like, and then we look on them, Ibis Island, perfect. And and it's an island in it's actually a natural spring, so it's a bunyip water hole they're calling it.
Yeah.
And it's like natural habitat of ibises.
Yeah.
And it's really beautiful. It's very close to the inner city bypass, and there's traffic noise. But then at the same time, you've got this absolutely beautiful area with lots of different animals, bird life, cormorants, as well as ibises, wood ducks, black ducks, hard-head ducks, which are less well known around this area. So
it sounds like
people can do their wild art.
Yeah,
no skill needed.
It sounds like it's going to be a great day to get to know the park better. We're going to have to leave it there, but next week we'll talk more about the event and experiencing Ibiza. Thanks so much for joining us, Linda.
No worries. Thank you.
All right, we're going to go to a song. This is by Ricky Pascoe. This is called Back to Country. You're listening to Eco Radio.
They tried to bury me. They didn't realize I was a seed.
You're listening to Ecoradio, the radio of the future.
You are listening to Ecoradio, the radio of the future. Thank you, small child. That's teamwork for you. We just heard then from Ricky Pascoe with Back to Country. And now we've running out of time. We're going to have to go quickly into a thing I call the Bushcare Roundup.
It's a Bushcare Roundup. They've been pulling out weeds and then they put in trees. It's the Bushcare Roundup.
This is your weekly roundup of all environmental and peace things happening in southeast Queensland. What's happening on Friday the 11th, Zack?
On Friday the 11th at 2:15pm, there is a seagrass monitoring at Loders Creek. That one is at Lenfox Park, Labrador. Then on Saturday the 12th at 8am, there is a Rome Street Bushcare. That one is at 32 Rome Street, Coorparoo. And then at 10am, as we were talking to the organisers earlier, we have the Action for Animals Forum, and that one is at the Spring Hill Hall in Spring Hill, surprisingly.
On Sunday the 13th at 7:30am, you can go to the July Planting and Working Bushcare Working Bee at Peter Scott Park in Moorooka. At 8 o'clock, you can go to the Bushcare Working Bee at Brandon Road in Runcorn. Also at 8 o'clock, you can go to the Wendon Way Bushcare Working Bee. That's in Bridgeman Downs. And at 3 o'clock, you've got the Yeronga Bushcare Working Bee. That's in Anita Street Park in Yeronga.
On Tuesday the 15th from 4:30 till 5:30pm, there's a sea slug survey in the Rocky Shores. That one is down at Burleigh Heads. And
that's it. That's everything. Thanks so much for joining us today. Stick around for the coolest cat on radio, Jordan with Sonic Aliens. Today they're interviewing the Ringlets from Aotearoa. You've been listening to 4ZZZ Eco Radio.